All right, we're going to talk about the new film Twisters, which I just watched. This is going to be a spoiler free review. It's going to be a little personal for me. I grew up with Bill Paxton's family. I went to school with his kids. And I grew up with the original Twister film. It was the first Bill Paxton movie I believe I was ever shown by my parents. It was one of their favorites, and it was, I think, PG-13, so it was something they felt they could share with me. He's done a lot of R-rated movies, and it was one of his most popular, and for good reason. You know, it's a classic, and same for Helen Hunt as well, who I loved, and was probably one of the first things I had ever seen her in, as well as Philip Seymour Hoffman, who, rest in peace as well, with Bill Paxton. But I recently rewatched the first Twister film in preparation for Twisters and fell in love with it all over again. I got to show it to my girlfriend for the first time, and she enjoyed it. And going into this film, I had seen the trailer, ever since it was announced. I wasn't really that intrigued by it, just by the pure fact that it wasn't, of course, going to have Bill Paxton or Helen Hunt. I knew that Helen Hunt had been trying to get a sequel made. She was really fighting for diversity, and she was trying to write and direct the sequel, but the studios were rejecting it for some reason, and is probably the reason why they didn't have her back in this movie, sadly. Or involved her in any way. But I do think that some of the diversity that she tried to pioneer in there came through. Although at the same time, I think it naturally would have, just because it's 2024 and they should. It still has two white leads, but it was certainly more diverse than the original film. In fact, I don't think the original film had any people of color. But I still, overall, wasn't super sold by the new film. I think Glen Powell is just fine. I don't think he's that amazing. I wasn't familiar with Daisy Edgar-Jones, and I did like Anthony Ramos from Transformers and the Dumb Money movie about the GameStop stock. And I also knew that Brandon Pereira was going to be in it, who I was very excited by. In fact, he's probably the main reason I was at all even remotely excited about the film, because I loved him in Jordan Peele's Nope. And so I was excited to see him. And again, just being personally connected to Bill and his family, it was, of course, hard for me to imagine a Twisters movie without him. And so, leading up to the release of this new film, I started seeing some teases from James, his son, who was posting online and stuff, and saying, hey, you might see a familiar face in the new Twisters movie. And I instantly got super rejazzed and excited, and couldn't wait to see who might show up. And going in, I look, yeah, that was kind of a spoiler, but it's like, I think he announced that months before the movie even was released, and it kind of was already leaked. People have been releasing this information, and I just wanted to talk about it because I did have a personal connection to it. But so I was excited hearing that he was going to have a small role in this film, and I didn't know what it was going to be, and I thought it was exciting. I know that he's been trying to be an actor for quite some time. He's done Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. for Marvel. He was he's had small roles in things, all throughout his life. I think some of his first things he did was the Spy Kids 2 movie he was in with his dad, and many other things. But that information is kind of what got me past that kind of emotional bridge, I guess, to go see this film. Was like, oh, okay, if he agreed to be a part of this film, then I feel like I should see it for their memory then and support them. And by the time I did get to see this movie, sorry, I know I wanted to give some backstory before I really got to the review, but again, I'm trying to dance around spoilers and stuff, but I was pleased with the cast. I think it was a fun cast. There were people I liked. I think, what's her name from Love Lies Bleeding is Katie O'Brien. Katie O'Brien was in this, and it was the first thing I'd seen her in since Love Lies Bleeding, which was not that long ago, which was kind of cool, and I'm glad to see her getting more roles in mainstream stuff. And another thing I liked about Twisters, the director is Asian, and Lee Isaac Chung. I'm probably pronouncing that wrong, but I of course love that representation, and very cool for him to see him do a big movie blockbuster like this. He's directed one episode of the third season of Mandalorian and some other independent film. He did Minari with Stephen Yeun. So that was another exciting aspect, and I don't think it really showed in the film, but other than having a diverse cast, but I think it was just cool that he got to be behind something that was a big summer blockbuster. It's always cool for Asian filmmakers. Always cool to see Asian filmmakers get to do big projects like this. One more thing I wanted to talk about Bill Paxton that I thought was very sweet. After his death, hundreds of storm tracers and users of the Spotter network used their markers to spell out his initials across the states of Texas, Kansas, and Oklahoma in tribute to the actor, citing that the movie was the inspiration for many of them to pursue storm chasing and meteorology. There's just so many things that happened in the original film that were behind the scenes stuff they had to deal with that was so real, and the two actors going blind for a few days because of the special effects, and Helen Hunt, injuring herself multiple times, and cast and crew leaving because the director was in his weird ways and pissing people off, and a lot of tension on the set, and some crazy backstories that the original film has. And something about this film just didn't feel like it could even come close to capturing anything the original did. It just feels like another, how much more can you do with tornadoes? Because the thing for me that worked so well about the original film is the cast and crew, the characters, and the characters. I think their stories were what really grounded the film and connected me with caring at all about what was going on, because you started to worry about the characters, and it was the characters you cared about while going on this crazy roller coaster. And I didn't really get that as much in this new film. And I felt like the reason for that, and again, I'm trying to not dive into spoilers, is they don't connect as much to the original as I hoped they would. And I felt like there were a lot of missed opportunities, which made me sad. And I think, yes, the director was trying to have it be for the next generation and be its own thing. but but at the same time, this film would not exist without the original, and I feel like you must pay honor to it. And I will say, having seen the film now, I was very disappointed with Bill Paxton's son's cameo. It's specifically, in fact, like I actually think I started tuning out of the movie after his cameo, and it felt, yeah, I get it. You know, maybe there was some scheduling stuff, and it could only be something short like that. But still, I think even if it had to be short, like a one-day cameo thing, I feel like it still could have been done with more care and thoughtfulness, especially in the wake of his father's passing. It didn't feel right to me. So that's all I'll say about the cameo. I still, at the same time, enjoyed it, getting to see him again, James on the big screen. James himself did a very good job with the material he had to read and do. He did a good job. I just, from a writer's perspective, that's not what I would have done personally with that character. And I kind of feel that way with a lot of the other characters. Obviously, the main ones like Glen Powell's and Daisy's. There's things I liked about it. There's things I didn't, but I think the things I didn't certainly outweighed the things that I did for this time around. And again, it was a very personal experience for me. I don't expect everyone else to feel the same way. Just because I have a very strong connection to Bill Paxton, and I didn't feel it did as much as I wanted to. And I also, like I mentioned before, Brandon Pereira was a big reason I wanted to go see this movie too, in terms of the new cast. I also liked Anthony Ramos very much as well. But Brandon Pereira's character was much more minimal than I expected, and so that was a disappointing factor for me as well. Story-wise, it was very simple. The action was okay. It just felt, even though the original had kind of crappy CGI, it felt more obvious and not as seamless maybe in this one. That's just me. I think there was something you just can't redo in the original film, and I certainly don't think Bill Paxton is replaceable. And I'm not saying Glen Powell is trying to do that, and he's not even playing, like, it's not a remake. He's not playing the same character or anything. But promotional wise, he's from Texas. He's the leading white man. People are gonna compare, and I don't think I like that, because there's nobody like Bill Paxton, and that's kind of what I want to end on. There's nobody like Bill Paxton. That's kind of how I feel about this film, and it's not the original. It has some small moments, but sure, compared to some other stuff that's in theaters, maybe it's slightly above the rest, but it's not by much. It's fun, but if you have a real connection to the original, or Bill, or something, like I do, and James, it didn't feel right for me personally. But let me know what you guys thought down below. I'd love to hear your guys' thoughts. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and have a wonderful, wonderful day. Thanks for watching.